also teach classes in 3D printing itself. So we do classes so where kids can come in. We teach the online software called Tinkercad where they design, and we have like 3 different printers where in our facility, so where they can build out of 3D printers, and they get to experiment some of the models that they designed and take it back with
And
them.
that's something, not everyone has a 3D printer at home yet. I would imagine in the future we're going to start seeing those, much like we all have our inkjet printers and laser printers. Someday we may have one of these devices in our homes.
So so we have a prototype, or we have one of the 3D printers that can be at home. So, but I think what is kind of like would be more empowering is like for our teachers and our schools to embrace 3D printing, and that's something that we are working on. Our mission is to engage the teachers and educate them, and the teaching community, especially starting at an elementary school level. Work with the teachers and then engage them. Have workshops, in 3D designing and 3D printing. Give them an understanding and something that they can take home, something that they can work with the kids. So that's kind of is our mission. So that at some point we will hopefully see some 3D printers in the classrooms, not just one for a school. And yes, at some point it's going to be in the houses, but I think before that we want the classrooms to embrace it. What we see more and more is although we always think of any new technology that comes in is something like hey, it's technology, it's engineering, it's science, it's math. So we don't look at the different aspects of even in arts, how it can add value. And I think 3D printer is going to be a real game changer in how information is going to be interpreted. Simply because 3D printing can be used in any class. It can be used in, like, this was done for my son's language arts class. So to
Right.
interpret, so you can think about that. And
Perhaps
so
biology class.
biology class. So I mean, one of the things off late we see is a lot of museums in the Smithsonian and the Oxford. So they are putting their models of fossils, 3D
So I
models.
could be studying a fossil and print one out.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
hold it in my hand right there in the classroom.
You can exactly. So you can hold the real life replica of the fossil. So because it's really empowering, because now imagine all the institutions across the world. So if they can have that's just for the fossil, right? So now if you think about archaeology, so there is a lot of studies being done there, and people are creating as and when they dig up and they find new things, they are putting the 3D models of the things that they're finding out, and
They can hold in their hand. They can
you can-
turn it right there, and
exactly
as if
you
they
can
were
yes
right
so
on site.
you have a replica of what somebody had built thousands of years ago. So it's and
Or even something like this from the
so yeah, so this is the
Eiffel Tower, right?
the Eiffel Tower, and it's it took a few days.
I can imagine this one takes a little while to print.
A little while to print, but then it came out really nice, and so yeah.
And while we've been talking over the last 20 minutes or so, we've actually had an item printing on the 3D printer.
Yes.
Which folks will probably get a chance to see that at home. We have a way to run that back, but yeah, Nandu's holding. This is what's being
this is what is
a
being
larger version of it.
yeah, so probably this is the larger version, and the one that's getting printed is a smaller version of that. So we were talking about this. This is like a Rapunzel's castle, because it has the amount of fine detail that's inside. We can't even show in the cameras, but then so it's great. It's phenomenal. How it could print. The level of detail. It has like a staircase inside.
I don't know if you can see this at home, but you can actually see the staircase. You can see that, but the staircase actually inside this printed object. That's pretty cool. I mean, one of the first times I ever saw a 3D printer at work was there was one on a YouTube video. Someone actually printed a flute on the 3D printer.
Yeah.
And it's like a whistle kind of thing. And when they were done, took it off the printer. They popped a little ball because that was printed with the extrusion in there, and they just started playing it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, pretty amazing stuff. And that was probably 6, 7, 8 years ago. And I'm sure these things are going to get a lot fancier. But you know, like you talked about before, this came from the rapid prototyping. You know,
Exactly.
companies that wanted to be able to make
Yeah,
something and see, hey, is this
yeah,
the
because
part we need? Is this how it's going to turn out?
Yeah, so because like, you know, back in those days, you know, it would take like at least few months to build a prototype. So, you know, that's how the rapid prototyping was born. And, you know, once you realized, you know, okay, so rapid prototyping is fine, but I think, you know, 20 years after that, now you see like, you know, now we can really make, you know, really functional parts out of these 3D printers. And I think it's going to be, you know, especially it's going to be, I would say like, you know, game changer, but it's going to help the kids understand a lot of concepts in terms of, and you know, you never know what kind of stuff, you know, kids can imagine. Now, you know, we always talk about stuff that's, you know, it's hard to make something like this in a traditional manufacturing process. But if you look at this, you know, a ball inside a cube, so now this was, you know, built layer upon layer by a 3D printer. So now you can imagine, so, you know, as and when, you know, kids get engaged in this kind of studies and, you know, understand, so when they have to design some complex things, so, you know, they will start, you know, building stuff.
Yeah,
so,
and it shows it can be done. And again, you know, coming to Creation Station, the kids will have access to the software that's used to put this model together.
Yes,
right? Which
so
is really cool. Imagine, you know, the kids at home, you want to do this, you can go to Creation Station and
True, yeah, so
kick the tires on this, basically.
yeah, so I mean, the, you know, the other, you know, great thing is like a lot of, you know, the software nowadays is online, so it's all like cloud-based. You know, so that's something which you guys are
Yeah,
well aware of, and I think, you know, especially like, you know, with the 3D design, you know, how kids can perceive the idea and then, like, you know, design online, so they can design online.
They can go at home and do it at
You
home.
can, yeah, exactly.
Software is
So
available to them.
software is available to them, and then, like, you know, and, you know, for a nominal fee, or, you know, for a decent price, we could 3D print, and, you know, they could collect it in a day or two. Now, there are also, you know, like bureau services which offer, you know, they're going to ship it over, you know, to you. But what we can offer is, like, you know, if something didn't work out well, you know, in the print, so that's where we can assist them and then say, like, you know, what is the problem with your design and how we can fix it.
Yeah, and they can learn the limitations and
Exactly.
and
So
retry
they
it.
can learn the limitations, and you know, we can also kind of like give them the advice in terms of, like, you know, what are the challenges, you know, in terms of, like, you know, what were the problems that they faced, and, you know, how to overcome those kind of problems, and you know, with our expertise and you know, what we have learned over a few years. So that's
It's a great
what we
story.
Can,
It's a great
yeah.
story. So, wrapping up, where can we find you? You know, if I'm a parent of a child, I want to get my kid involved in this. You know, how do we find you? What's the next step there?
Yeah. So our information is going to be you know, on a slide. So so we are you know, in One Park Drive, off of Route 110, Suite 9, in Westford. And you know, you can reach us online at www.creationstationma.com. And you know, I think this is just the beginning. So we feel like, you know, this is just a start, and you know, we have a lot more things, you know, to what we anticipate, you know, how things are going to progress over, you know, the next few years.
It's awesome. That's awesome. And again, this is a good chance for the kids to learn the future of what they'll be involved in if they choose to go into engineering or any study, right? We mentioned biology. And,
yeah, it could be anything. It could be like it could be archaeology, or it could be anything, any subject you think about. So there is going to be a model, or there is going to be something that you know, is going to come out of this 3D printing. And you know, the day by day, you know, the technology is changing so fast, and it's also the intersection of all these different aspects of, like, you know, computing, the hardware, the software, you know, a lot of, you know, the cloud, you know, right? So I mean, with all this, you know, what is happening is, like, you know, the cost is coming down drastically, and that is what is the most significant thing. So all of a sudden now you have technology accessible, which wasn't a few years earlier, you know, to a common man. And I think, you know, it's a great empowering thing that, you know, even, you know, kids in you know, like
they can access. In fact, they can actually start doing this.
So yeah.
Well, it's been great, Nandu.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you taking the time to tell us about Creation Station. And, you know, I urge you to go to the website and learn more about it, and just knock on the door, go see them and say, hey, we saw this on Westford Cat, want to learn more.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, you're welcome anytime.
All
Yeah,
right.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Yeah.
My name is Rich Thal, and I'm with Creation Station, and we thought we would give you a little brief introduction to 3D printers and what we're doing at Creation Station with them. So here we have what's called a Delta robot kind of printer, and it's based on the notion of a delta, a triangle, and there are robots that are shaped like this, but in this case we don't, instead of having a hand or something that does other kinds of work, we have a extruder. An extruder, as you will see, is sort of like a pastry bag where you squirt out the plastic. But just before we get into that, I wanted to show you a small M3D printer, and this is what you're likely to have in your house in the not very distant future. So it is a small 3D printer. It prints on this surface here, and it costs just under $400. It's a little bit slow, but if you wait a while, you get one that works faster. So this is a roll of we call filament, and in this case it's what's called polylactic acid plastic. It's been extruded into a filament which is about 2 millimeters in diameter. Okay. And that filament comes down here. There's you can't see it, but there's a gear here that pushes the filament out and along and through this tube called a Bowden tube. And that comes down to the extruder or hot end. And there's a heater here which heats the plastic very rapidly to about roughly 200 degrees Celsius. And that melts the plastic. It melts and it is extruded out in a thread, literally about the size of a button thread. Now it's a little heavier than normal sewing thread. And it lays it on the model, which is stuck to the table, called the printer bed, and it builds up gradually. In about a second, it hits the model, and there's a fan here that cools off the plastic as rapidly as we can get it cool. So we build the model in layers. The layers are about 200 microns, which is to say that there's 5 layers in every millimeter. So you can see it's a slow process, but it's not being done by a person, so we just have to be patient. And as that builds up, we eventually will get the full model. And then we'll use a little chisel or knife to remove it from the bed of the printer. And that's the whole process. Just as you can now take a book and transmit it across the internet and print it out and have it in front of you, you can now take a tangible object and do the same thing.